soul, the look of love, leaving with no other option but to be divine. Sometimes when the animal seems to have the upper hand, you always understand. No words like fire that you bring. You take this occasion to give me gentle persuasion that brings everything back into order.
All right. Little technical hiccup there. So I want to thank you for your patience. Once again, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone who's come in tonight. We started with Osset, and we are actually in the cycle of Osset tonight because we're celebrating. We're celebrating a wonderful event that took place 38 years ago when that aspect of God that we call Osset in the Kemetic tradition revealed, reintroduced to the world the great Metu Neter oracle through the person of Ra Nefer Amen, who is known as the Shechem or Shechem of the Asar Osset Society. The Asar Osset Society is a Pan-African spiritual organization that is celebrating 49 years in the United States, in Canada, in the islands, in the UK. We have members in Ghana, South Africa, and other parts of the world. And this all came about through the tireless work of Ra Nefer Amen, the author of the Metu Neter 7-volume set, some 30 some odd other books, as well as over 100 musical scores that accompany the meditation systems that he has also brought to the world. But tonight we're going to talk about oracles and divination. So I would like everyone to join me in welcoming to our webinar, Ra Nefer Amen, the Shechem or Shechem of the Asar Osset Society. Anecharak Shechem or Shechem. Welcome.
Yes,
all right. Great to see you tonight.
Can you give me a second to adjust my light?
Sure.
Yeah, because I'm noticing that I'm kind of dark in the dark here.
Too. So if you're not familiar, the Metu Neter oracle is an oracle. It is a device that uses 70 cards and to be able to enable us to communicate with the divine part of our spirit and give us guidance. So you're going to hear about that tonight. And you're also going to hear just a few of the many, many hundreds of testimonials because we've been working with this oracle, as I mentioned, for 38 years. The first 5 years, it was just in the hands of a priesthood where we had to draw the cards out ourselves by hand. And then it was actually published to the world in 1990. So again, welcome. I see a lot of ones in the chat, meaning you all are familiar with this oracle system. I also see a number of twos. Great. So we're going to introduce you to this tonight. And while you are there in the chat, if you have anything you'd like to share, any stories that you'd like to tell about your experiences in using the Metu Neter oracle, feel free to type that in there. And time permitting, we will be able to talk to you about that. Great. Welcome, Connie, Tenzin, Carrie Owens. How are you? All right, check him. You look good.
More towards me. Look, point it more towards me. Point, there you go. All right, how's that?
Very good.
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
I just got through giving piano lessons to one of my students. So I couldn't even get out of it because he's taking an audition to Midas College of Music in 2 weeks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful story. In fact, we could probably start there because it was your encounter with divination, so to speak, oracle systems that greatly altered your career path.
Not
In
greatly,
music.
completely.
Completely. So for those people who are joining us tonight, we have people from all over the country here. We are streaming right now on 7 Facebook sites and also on our YouTube channel. Shekem, can you share with people who are not aware what is an oracle system? And maybe you want to share that first story about how it influenced your path.
Yeah, first of all, the word oracle, first of all, let me say hello to the audience. And I'm very grateful that you've taken time out today, for us to share our experiences on our journey to our divinity. And the word oracle, aura, the root of oracle means to speak, as in oral, to orate. So the oracle is something that speaks. That tells, is a means through which something speaks. And it's important to break it down that way, because people think that if I use the tarot cards or the that the message is coming from tarot cards. If I use the Metu Neter, the I Ching, they think that the message is coming from the I Ching itself or the Metu Neter card. No. You see, the oracle is like you said, a tool, a device that allows us to communicate, with our spirit, our subconscious mind. You with me? Okay? That allows the subconscious mind, which knows a heck of a whole lot more about life than we do, right? Like we don't know how to digest food. Our psyche knows how to do that. You see? We don't know how to grow our body and heal our body. Our psyche knows how to do that. Our psyche also is involved in the social aspects of our life. What's going to happen tomorrow, 10 years from now. The psyche knows all of, meaning another word for the psyche is the soul. It has all that information engraved in it. So how you tap into the psyche, you see that, okay, to your soul, to extract information, just not simply about the future, about what's going on. Why did that happen 5 years from now? We need a vehicle, an intermediary vehicle to extract that information. And that is what an oracle is.
Mm-hmm.
And the different kinds of oracles, you see that. In other words, some oracles, get information from the psyche. That's the I Ching. You see that? And the tarot. Other oracles get information from the spirit, meaning a higher part of your being. That's the Metu Neter oracle. You see that? Okay? Other oracles get information also from the soul, and that is Ifa. So we need to understand the symbol set. You see that? Of an oracle. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
The I Ching is tied in with the Taoist philosophy. The Metu Neter is tied into the Kemetic, the Syrian philosophy, spiritual system. Tarot, on the other hand, is not tied into any wisdom, system. Okay, nobody who is a tarot practitioner can bring, a wisdom system that ties into the tarot, so that when you get a message from the tarot, it's not a highly spiritual guidance that you're getting. You see that? Yes, sir. So you wanted me to say how I got involved with oracles, correct?
Two.
Yeah. I was still at Manus College of Music, pursuing a career as a concert pianist, and I came across Imam Baraka. Somebody told me that he was looking for piano teachers because he had the Black Arts Repertory School Theater in Harlem. He was teaching for free young Black people and so forth how to write poems and plays and things of that nature. You see that? And so I went up, I said, hey, let me give something back to the community. I can teach, young kids piano. So in between giving lessons, I ran into Sun Ra, the great jazz, musician. Is he from Philadelphia, by the way?
Based
Sun
in
Ra?
Philadelphia, his group. Hmm.
Yes, yes, So he says to me, okay, Beethoven, Chopin is cool, you know, and you're studying, Western harmony, but I write my music guided by the I Ching. And I'm like, I never heard of that music system before, that that music theory system, and it says, oh yes, all the harmonic information is inside there, and it tie your music into life. I said, really? So I ran downtown to Barnes and Noble's bookstore and bought me a copy of the I Ching, you know, and I became fascinated with reading the book, read through the book, how to do reading and so on. And the first question that it came to me to do was about my destiny, like why am I here on earth? And I got the 26 hexagram top line stress, so it brought in 11 hexagrams. So my destiny was 26 into 11 hexagram. And the complement to the 26 hexagram was the 45th hexagram, which speaks of gathering together. So what I got from the reading was saying plainly and outright, like, yeah, you got great music, you got great artistic skills. You have great skills that can make you famous and big in the world, but you need to give it up and and dedicate yourself to your spiritual upliftment and sharing it with people. I said, say what? Give up my music. I said, so how am I going to make a living? And so on. So I struggled with that for 3 years. And during that struggling period, people would somehow find me, and ask me questions, and I would do readings for them, and they would come back and tell me how the life was so much better from that reading. And I was like, I'm improving people's life with this I Ching oracle, and I'm not using it myself. Until one day in my meditation, it came to me that it wasn't the I Ching talking to me, but it was God talking to me through the I Ching. It's the extracting symbols from my soul, from my psyche. And I was like, wow. So God is telling me to give up the music and dedicate myself to my spiritual upliftment and to help uplift others. I said, I should ignore God. So I changed my mind right then and there. And it's been, that's what brings us to where we are today. All the Metu Neter volumes and all the books and all the classes were set in, many cities around the world. And it's been a fantastic journey.
Well, we
And
have a
then
lot of people
now,
that are very thankful for that journey,
yes, sir.
for that decision.
And then in 38 years ago, the Metu Neter oracle came through. You see that, which is a Kemetic oracle based on the divisions of the faculties of the spirit, as opposed to the I Ching, which these are the what the I Ching calls the Bagua, or the faculties of the soul.
Mm-hmm. So Shechem, for us to address people that are hearing this for the first time, they're not familiar with this, and their only point of reference for when you talk about throwing some coins or some shells or picking a card out of a deck, their only reference to this is fortune telling, or it might even be a negative reference that this is something that we're trafficking in dark magic or something like that. Can you give us some understanding, some historical perspective about oracles and where this comes from? How does it relate to our spirituality?
Well, people have no way of relating firsthand, interacting firsthand with antiquity. That's past and gone. So, and rather than, involve myself in, an abstruse intellectual discourse, which, you can say anything, you know, uh, I can tell people to speak to their friends that have been using the I Ching, Metu Neter Oracle, Tarot, Ifa, for many years, 10, 20, 30 years. And they're going to find these are upstanding people, honest, well put together people like anybody else. You see that, meaning that they're working with these oracles in no way has compromised their ethics or the spirituality, the character and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it only takes a handful of readings through any of these oracle systems, for people to discover that the answers they get are right on point. You see that? Meaning it doesn't tell you yes, do something, no, don't do something. Sometimes it says yes outright, no outright, but it also gives you an education as to why not or why yes. You see that? And it goes beyond, telling you what you should do or not do. There's a message behind each reading that you have to be an initiate to know. And the hidden message that if you do X, Y, Z, or don't, or you refrain from doing A, B, C, you will grow spiritually. You see that? Your character will improve.
Mm-hmm.
You get a better relationship with your soul and your spirit. And when you have a good relationship with your soul and your spirit, then you will develop what is called spiritual power, psychical abilities, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the oracle becomes now a tool, a major part of your spiritual growth curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not something that you consult to find the best job opportunity or, the best investment opportunity or vehicle. It's just not, to clarify should you marry somebody or not, and so on. Okay. The answer behind that is always do this or don't do that, and you will grow spiritually and you develop your soul, which is very important. And we use this to judge the different oracles. You see that? Because when people do a tarot reading, they don't necessarily get, a real in-depth spiritual or psychical guidance because the tarot does not have that symbol set in them. You see that?
Mm.
Okay.
Can you explain a little bit more by what you mean by the symbol set?
Okay, sure. In other words, the Bible, the I Ching, for example, right, is based, on the 10. They said the Bible, which Ba is 8, and Gua means the 8 symbols, but the system is really 10 symbols. You see that? 5 yang and 5 yin basic trigrams are the foundation of the I Ching. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And all of the messages from the trigrams and the hexagrams corresponds to information about your soul, your psyche. You see that? The Metu Neter, on the other hand, is composed of, 11 spiritual faculties plus the symbols for, Nekebet and Wajet, which are the psychic part of your being, as well as a symbol for the ancestors, okay, and the dark deceased. You see, meaning, defunct people who have not transitioned properly, or you could become one of those people if you don't change your ways, and so on. Mm-hmm. So the Metu Neter references the 11 laws of Ma'at. You see that? Mm-hmm. The I Ching references, the 10 symbols of the soul or the psyche, but you have to be well versed in Taoism. You see, the Taoist philosophy to really properly use the I Ching. Lots of people don't know that when the I Ching was first translated into English, Carl Jung, the eminent psychologist, he wrote the preface to the book, to the translation, the Wilhelm, translation, and it occurred to Carl Jung to ask the I Ching, well, what are your thoughts about being introduced to the Western world? And you got the figured hexagram, which is the oracle itself. And the Oracle I Ching told Carl Jung that, the handle of this spiritual cauldron have been altered, meaning that you will not be able to grasp the Oracle properly. You see that? And the fat of the pheasant will not be eaten, meaning that the essence, the creme de la creme, will not be assimilated, for the simple fact that the I Ching is part of a Taoist society, a society, of Taoist priests, and with a rich set of Taoist tools. You see that the whole, so-called Chinese medicine and so forth and way of thinking. Okay, so when you bring the I Ching into the Western world that knows nothing about Taoism, you're only getting like 5% of the value of the I Ching. The same thing with Metu Neter. The Metu Neter is based on the entire Kemetic, spiritual philosophy and practices. So that if you just use the Metu Neter without immersing yourself into the Osirian tradition, okay, you're only getting about 5% of its value. That's why we have an initiation system in all of these classes for 49 years, most of which are free, because we want for people to immerse themselves in this ancient tradition, which gave the world its spirituality, its science, and everything that is good.
I was going to ask you if you thought the fat of the pheasant of the Metu Neter was being eaten, but you kind of answered the question.
Well, we're whipping it up and we're dishing it out and we're giving it by teaching by all these books, Metu Neter volumes 1 through 7 and so on, so that people can understand the spiritual system. You see, the oracle is not something that stands alone. It's a means for you to get information from God through your spirit.
Too.
And the final outcome of this counsel is just not for you to do well, it's for you to grow spiritually and fix your soul.
So what has been your observation since this oracle came to you through your person and having it published and widely introduced to the world, as far as the process of people really living those readings or using the oracle properly?
Well, we have done our best in the past 49 years. Well, 38 years since the oracle has been out. Well, 49 years of teaching. We have done our best to educate the world in Kemetic spirituality. People of different ethnic background study my works, just not simply Black people. When I went to England, a couple of years after Metu Neter Volume 1 was written and published, I went into a bookstore in England, and it was the sister bookstore for Samuel Wisers Incorporated, and I went in the store with Clemency, and I didn't introduce myself, who I was, whatever, right? I just walked in and I'm looking in the Kabbalah section. So the young man, white man, it's a white bookstore, these are the people who are behind, the great occult tradition in England, Shakespeare was part of that. He was the Rosicrucian, emperor in England. A lot of people don't know that. You see that. He was the Grand Master. So I went into the bookstore and I'm looking at the different books to see, I have a big library of Kabbalistic books. So I said, I'm here in England, and if there's a book that I haven't seen, it has to be in this bookstore. So I'm looking through, and the young man, walks up and says, "Can I help you?" I said, "No, I'm just browsing." He said, "Well, I see it looks like you're looking for a book in Kabbalah." So he points to me a book by Dion Fortune. And he says, "This is a good book to start with, but when you're really ready for the good hard stuff, you want to read this book." And it took out Metu Neter Volume 1. And I said, "You read it?" He said, "Yeah, man. This is the heights of the teaching. And Clemens is looking at me like expecting for me to let the young man know who I am, that I was the author of the book. And I just simply said, thank you. And I walked out the store. Clemens, of course, he died on the sidewalk. So the thing is that white people, Chinese people, all Jewish people, everybody's reading my books. So, and of course, and lots of them are also using the oracle, because there's a Kabbalistic book called the Sefer Yetzirah, which was the Kabbalist attempt to create an astrology, oracle system of the tree of life. You see that? Okay, the tree of life, of course, is the Hebrew Kabbalistic version of the Metu Neter of Egypt. You see that? The 11 faculties of the spirit. And plus they try to bring in the 10 faculties of the psyche. So that's why we had the 22 letters, or the 22 paths of wisdom in Kabbalah. You see that? Which a lot of people don't know where to get that secret doctrine of the 22 letters. You see that? I'll introduce that into the world next year. So stay tuned to understand what the 22 paths of wisdom really are, with actual proof and scientific verification. So the thing is that I have lots of people that are using my oracle, many of them in an occult manner, meaning, they might be grand master of lodges, Masonic lodges or whatever, or advanced students, and they're using my books and my oracle, in their teachings and in their work and so on. Because if you're well versed in Kabbalah, you find that there is nothing that informs you about the tree of life than my 7 volumes. It's a fact. You see that? There's no Kabbalistic oracle system. The Golden Dawn Rosicrucians tried to use the tarot. You see that as as a Kabbalistic oracle, but it failed. All you got to do is read Aleister Crowley's books and Dion Fortune and Israel Regardie, all of those books, Win Westcott and so forth. You find that none of the Rosicrucians and the Kabbalists were able to make the tree of life speak. You see that? The Metu Neter have always spoken since antiquity, and in 1985, I made the oracle speak again. The Metu Neter oracle speak. And Medu means word, and Neter God. The word of God is what is coming through those readings that you're doing. So I, admonish everybody, don't ask frivolous questions. Don't ask questions that you already know the answer to. Quote, test the oracle to see if the answer you get matches the answer that you know. Okay, do a number of readings and study them carefully, meditate on them, and you will see the veracity and the high level of dispensation. And that's the way to know. Never try to use the oracle as a weapon. You see that? Meaning to prove somebody wrong. We use the oracles to uplift people, to show them how they are wrong, where they are wrong. You see that? And so on.
Well, Shekem, we do have some 2 guests with us tonight who would like to share some of their experience in using the oracle. I have a number of others who wrote in, and I think it would be beneficial to the audience if at this time we can hear from one of them. So we have Shekem Metu Neter, who I'm going to bring to the stage. She is a Keriheb priestess in the Asaraset Society. She's one of the priestesses that was initiated way back in 1982. And she also professionally served as a financial administrator, college administrator. And I want to introduce her right now. All right, Shekem Metu, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How are you, Netra? Shekem Netra.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight. You know, it's a special Osset cycle. We give thanks to Mother Osset for gifting the world this beautiful oracle through Shechem Shechem Ra Unefer Amen. And I thought your story would be very appropriate. So could you share with us your experience with the Metu Neter oracle?
Okay. So many years ago, I had decided that I, wanted to have another child. So after about a year of trying to conceive, nothing was happening. And so I was kind of concerned because before then I would be able to conceive on a dime. So I went to the doctors and got checked out, and they couldn't find any reason why I was not conceiving. They said everything was intact, but they couldn't tell me why I wasn't conceiving. So I decided to consult the Metu Neter oracle, and I pulled the Osset card. So I knew at that time Osset had to do with the reproductive organs and infertility and things like that. So I said, bet. So I said, I'm going to do my meditations to Osset. And I also, made sure that I tried to eat as many Osset foods as I was eating a whole bunch, cucumbers, lettuce, watermelons, drinking spearmint tea, everything to, to help my energy to calm down, to be more watery. So I kept doing these meditations, but another year went by and I wasn't getting pregnant. So I just kept doing the meditations. And by this time, it was like a third year went by and I still wasn't getting pregnant. So I went to a fertility specialist and I, had him check me out. He couldn't find any reason why I was not conceiving. So I just continued doing my meditations. But by this time, it was like 4 years I had been doing these meditations. So I was sort of going to give up because I said, maybe it's just not meant for me to have any more children. So after that, I had this dream 3 separate times. I had the same dream that I walked into a room and my family members were in the room and they looked at me and they pointed at me and they said, "You're pregnant." And I kept saying, "No, I'm not." And they kept saying, "Yes, you are." So I would go into the room and I would look into the mirror and I would see my big round belly. So I had this dream 3 times. So I knew Osset was telling me that I should continue the meditations, that it's going to happen, that I just had to be patient. So I continued doing the meditations. It still wasn't happening. Went back to the fertility specialist. They were doing more tests. They still were baffled. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. So the doctor said, well, come back in a few more weeks and maybe we'll do more investigation. We'll go into your tubes and we'll do whatever. So I went home, continued doing my meditation. So this is over 4 years now. And then I had another dream. And in that dream, a friend of mine came to my house with a truckload of watermelons. And so watermelons is Osset's food. And so he brought all these watermelons into my kitchen. The watermelons were all over my kitchen. We were trying to stuff them into the refrigerators. And I said to him, what am I going to do with all of these watermelons? And he said, well, eat them. So when I woke up from that dream, I knew without a doubt that I was pregnant. I don't know, I just knew that Osset was telling me something. So I went back to the fertility specialist and I said to him, I don't want you to go in my tubes. I want you to do a pregnancy test. And he said, no, I really don't think you're pregnant. I said, just do a test for me. So he went, he gave me a pregnancy test and he came back with this surprised look on his face. And he said, I don't understand what happened. He said that the test came back and said, you're pregnant. How did that happen? And I said, I really don't know. And he congratulated me. And I walked out of his office with a smile on my face. And so several months later, I had my wonderful son. So also in Osset Society, we are separate. We're into clans. We're right. Everybody's associated with a clan, and so we do an astrology chart. And so the clan is based on what sign your moon is in. So when we did my son's chart, his moon was in the sign of Cancer, and Cancer corresponds to Osset. So I knew that Osset had signed, sealed, and delivered and said, I was the one, that helped you to conceive, and I was the one that helped you to have the birth. And my delivery was so painless, so quick, and so easy. So I say Metu Neter for the Metu Neter Oracle. I use it for many, many years. It has helped me in so many areas of my life, and I am so blessed and grateful for this oracle. So I say Dua to you, Shekmu, Shekam, and Netrala.
Thank you. Wonderful story. Thank you for sharing.
Dua.
Thank you so much for coming on and, and sharing that and illustrating the point that it is the prescription of the meditations.
Especially with sticking with the meditation. Once you receive the word of God, that this is what's going to guide you, then stick with it. You see that? Because oftentimes we need to be tested. Oftentimes it's not a test, but there are things that are within us that are obstructing the delivery that the Spirit is working out. So when what is God that has said to you, do it this way, then you persevere. It's different from you believing what to do.
True.
Very good.
True. I learned. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just one of a lot of amazing stories.
I just like to add, right, that people, when they go to oracles, they think it's something that I use to find a better job, or can I get a raise, or buying a house or a car, or getting a wife or husband, but also what rituals to do. You see, what ritual can I do to help my child? What ritual I can do to help my mother? What meditation I can do to help a friend get to heal a friend, and so on. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important.
So each of the cards then in the Metu Neter Oracle, for those who are not familiar, correspond to certain specific meditations that should be done?
Well, every part of your spirit and of your psyche, has its own different vibratory, rate. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So colors, every part of the spirit, every part of the psyche, it's associated with a particular color, gemstone, aromatherapy oil, we call it anointing oils, certain foods, food is energy, just not, molecular, it's also vibrational, objects. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So, there are things, that you eat and surround yourself with, and certain herbs and, and gemstones to attune you and arouse and activate and increase the level of vibration of a particular part of your spirit or your psyche. You see that? Just don't rear amethyst because you like amethyst, or it fits in with your latest shoe or earrings or whatever. Rear amethyst for a purpose that has been indicated by God talking to you through either the I Ching or through the Metu Neter Oracle.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So I do see some questions in the chat. If you are new to this and you're interested in getting a copy of the Metu Neter Volume 3, which is available now, or also getting a deck of the cards, you can go to this website. I'll leave it up there for you to write down. Let me just show you. We can here. And here, once you get to the website, you'll see there is a bundle price, as well as you can buy the book individually and the deck of cards. So we do have a limited time offer on this website. You can get both the deck of cards and volume 3 for $75, including your shipping. All right. So if we could, Shekma, I have one other person who would like to share a wonderful story about the Metu Neter Oracle. And she happens to be a queen mother in our society. As I mentioned at the outset, the Asaraset Society, which was created by Shechem Ra Nefer Amen, is a Pan-African spiritual organization, and we have organized ourselves around the traditional African model. So we have kings and queen mothers and elders and chiefs that administrate our various areas. And right now I would like to bring to our meeting a wonderful priestess. She's also a senior Keriheb priestess, initiated back in 1982. She was part of the group that first received the oracle, and she's been using it for many years. And she is the queen mother that's in charge of our Illinois, Missouri, Minnesota, Midwest area. I'd like to invite Ordawat Meter Erit. How are you doing?
I'm
Welcome.
fine, thank you. And that Chirac Shechem. So good
Yes.
to see you.
Yes.
So welcome. So we asked you to come out tonight because besides your vast experience in counseling many people over the years with the Metu Neter Oracle, you've also had many, many significant personal experiences using the Oracle system and the meditations. And there's one in particular that we would love for you to share that is one of those classic stories in the Osirian tradition that we've come to really appreciate.
Okay, well, in the 1970s, I was married to a member of the Black Panther Party who, as a result of a government program called COINTELPRO, was convicted unjustly for something he didn't do. And he was sentenced to 25 years to life imprisonment. And at that time, there was no Metu Neter Oracle. There was simply the fact of you've been sentenced and that's the end of your life. But later on in the 1980s, I inadvertently met his wife at that time one day at a festival, and she was advertising the fact that his case, they were trying to overturn his case because they had new evidence that the lawyers were going to present, showing how COINTELPRO was, behind the unjust conviction and not due to the fact that he had done anything unjust. So when I met her, she was telling me about the new court case that was coming up. That night when I went home, I had a very vivid dream of, and I'll just refer to him as DBW, who was my former husband. And I had a very vivid dream that he was being lynched, in public. And it was just so vivid that I woke up the next day and decided to do a reading. I consulted the Metu Neter Oracle to find out what the dream meant. And it clearly indicated that he needed to be helped. And when I asked, well, what should be done? How can I help him? I received the Sebek card, which is the image behind me as I'm sitting here, just so some of you can follow along. This is the card I received. It's I changed it a little bit so you can understand certain things as I tell the story. The number 3 will become very prominent. That's tied to Sebek. The image that you see there of the canine with the ears that are up looking alert and the colors. And I'll explain as I go along. So I spoke with her later, and I spoke with DBW, and they were very open to doing some meditations using um, the chant and direction of the Sebek card that was received. The counsel from that explained what should be done, in order for this case to go well, so there wouldn't be a modern day lynching in the courtroom. So finally, the day arrives of the court case. The DBW had been doing the meditations um, according to the Sebek reading along with his wife. And when the court case came, DBW was supposed to show up in court. It was a little before noon that day. Court was packed with people. It was the press were there, with cameras and all kind of stuff, and it was just people waiting outside the courtroom, waiting in the streets. It was a very popular case, and he was supposed to appear in court a little bit before noon that day. And at some point, we're waiting and waiting, and finally, the court says, "Well, we can't find him." Of course, people started to get very disturbed because he's in your custody. What do you mean that you can't find him in the system? We wait and wait and wait, and finally, there's some issue, with him being bussed from the prison to the court, and we couldn't get started with the court case until sometime a little before 3 p.m. 3 is a Sebek number, right? And we're in the courtroom. I'm there, packed, full of people. And the attorney that represents him was a younger woman whose name is Liz, three-letter word, or three-letter name. And she's making her case. And she's kind of, not very, very experienced with this because this is some new material that she's dealing with. And at some point, the judge just stops her and says, "Okay, okay, please have a seat." So we're wondering where the judge is going with this. Why is he stopping the defense attorney or the attorney that's making the case for his sentence to be overturned? And the judge is stopping her. Suddenly, the judge just blurts out that DBW will be released due to the evidence that's been presented. He made that declaration. He actually did use the what is it? It's not a hammer.
The gavel.
The what?
The gavel.
The gavel, right. He actually used the gavel. He banged on the desk there and he made his pronouncement. It was exactly 3 p.m. It wasn't a minute before. It wasn't a minute after. It was 3 p.m. on the nose. And at that point, the court just erupted with people just laughing and screaming and hugging each other. And DBW turns around. I can clearly see he's wearing the color socks that you see on his screen. One half the screen is kind of like a mustardy yellow, and the other half is white. He's wearing these socks. He was so committed to the work and so devoted to it that he packed up all his things from the prison before he got to the court with no plans to return. And that kind of devotion, I'm sure, had everything to do with the outcome. But the story gets really even more interesting after we leave the courtroom. First, he goes to a press conference. Sebek is kind of like into communications, the press, and everything. We go outside. We're waiting for a cab. This is happening in New York City. So the cab's about the same color as Sebek's colors. The first stop we make once he leaves the courtroom is to go into the Gap store. GAP, three-letter word, the Gap. From the Gap, we go to one of the attorney's homes, to kind of just settle down for a minute. The attorney's address is number 3, Day Street, Day. When the attorney opens the door, there is a wooden carving of a dog with the ears sitting up straight, as you see in the picture behind me. It went on like that through the whole night. We had dinner afterwards. All kinds of Sebek symbols popped up everywhere, so there was no possible way for anyone to talk themselves out of what was behind the success of this day. The signatures, the evidence of us having tapped into that Sebek energy displayed itself just endlessly throughout the day. And that is the story.
Wow.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this person was not involved in the Kemetic tradition,
No, it was a Muslim.
Muslim, and and he didn't have to convert or just do the meditation, and he
That's
did
right.
it. And he, when he saw me, asked me. He said, "I know I owe you. How much do I owe you?" I said, $3. Just
That's right.
$3. But you have to, and that month was our Sedek month,
That's
and the
right.
Saturday following his release was the Sedek full moon ritual ceremony that we're having. And I said, you have to give me $3, but you're gonna have to put it on the shrine. And he sure came and put that money in the shrine.
You sure did.
Oh yes, and his
And I'll
brothers
never
and
forget the look on his face when he said he'd have to pay you. I don't know what he was expecting, having the fact that he just walked out of jail after 19 years of imprisonment, got his life back. Oh, that sounds like $1 million to me. But when you
and
said three
one of
dollars,
his one of his one of his lawyers was one of the top political lawyers in the world. I forgot his name.
Was it
oh
Consul?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that weighed in on the case. Oh gosh, he's passed away now. It's not begins with a K. Forgetting
William Kunstler, I think it was. Huh?
William
Chancellor.
Kunstler.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Hmm.
very well known.
Hmm.
and they said that the evidence that they found was 300,000 pages of information that has been, misfiled, hidden away. And of course, there are many other stories like this, perhaps not as dramatic. A few of them even more dramatic. Okay, of people that came to us, you know, to get readings as to what meditation to do to get out of jail. And they have been lots of people been freed or had their sentences ameliorated through the meditations that were prescribed by this great oracle. So I want to thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Well, thank you, Shekhar Mashekar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Queen Mother.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, as you mentioned, Shechem Shechem, there are stories after stories after stories, and we just wanted to celebrate tonight this wonderful spiritual accomplishment of bringing forth this oracle and how it has blessed the lives of so many people.
The oracle of Kemet, which were priestesses, trance oracles, right? Was the most, celebrated, one of the most celebrated part of Kemetic, spirituality. People will come from all over the world, kings and generals and rich people will come from Asia, and so forth to get counsel from oracles. And the Greek oracles of Delphos, was actually imports of these black, women. They call them black doves. You see that, okay? And they were, people talk about the great oracle of the Delphos and so forth in Greek. but they were actually Kemetic priestesses.
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, Greece never respected their women or gave them great positions of anything, and they didn't have that tradition. You see that? So we need to, part of what I'm doing is just not simply um, promoting this great ancient tradition that gave the world religion, philosophy, science, mathematics, and so on, but, restoring, our greatness in this world here. That movie that was done, the I think about the queen, the African queen. Recent, what's the name of the movie?
Oh, they called it The Woman King, right?
The woman king.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get ourselves together. I don't know if that movie was produced by a black person or not, but we need to get back in. And there's enough money in the black community to do this. Instead of The Woman King, movies should have been done. Let's say their names. You see that? Queen Hatshepsut.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? Okay? Who was the first so-called woman king? She was, a Shechem of Egypt, and she wore the beard. Okay? She wanted to show, and she portrayed herself as a king, not as a queen mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to say, no, don't, I'm just as equal to a man in power and things of that nature. Let's say the name, Queen Nzinga, Yasantawa.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do movies, on the actual queen mothers. Yasantawa was, a Ashanti queen mother that when the different Ashanti kings, gave up because the British monarchy wanted Ghana to give up the golden stool as a gift to Queen Victoria. And King Prempeh the first, he says, hell no, we go to war. And they exiled him to Seychelles Island, and of course the Ashanti army was no match for the UK army with the machine guns and all those and cannons and so on. So, the kings were about to give up, and Yasantawa, the queen mother, she says, hell no, we will keep fighting. And she rallied and unified the kings, and they went back to war. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
She was captured, okay? And they said, no, we will give the British told the Ashantis, we'll give you back your queen mother, okay, if you give us the stool. And the people says, what do you want, Queen Mother? She says, I go to Seychelles Island before. So, so the British never, ever got the golden stool.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that was the great victory of the Ashanti nation. You see that? So we need to restore, our history, our story, not his story, but our story.
Our story, that's right.
It has to be restored.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? 12 months a year, not just simply February.
Mm-hmm. The shortest month, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there you go.
So I have another one. Well, we have several of them. And I just want to read this one. One of our members in Chicago, I believe, she said several years ago, my mother had asked me to assist her to go visit one of Rome's Catholic shrines of the Virgin Mary in France, as she had always wanted to go, but walking was a struggle for her. In my head, I was adamant that this was not something I should be doing, as it was against my religion, and kept getting her to ask someone else, but she persisted. I finally went to the oracle. I asked God about the trip, and I received the Oset Medut, which spoke of the nurturing and care to bring to her person and to elevate my living of Oset in this situation. The other Medut, Wajet, prepared me for the psychic work I would need to do to protect me on the trip. And she mentions her incarnation objective. She said, well, she went on the trip and we bonded like we never did before. I even saw all of the correlations with Mudo Set and the shrines of the Virgin Mary, and was able to share these revelations peacefully with my mother. As a result of living the reading, it really allowed me to see the power of living truth in a situation and how it was truly a win-win. It opened up my mother to finding out so much more about the Osirian way of life. And now she has moved towards a vegetarian diet with great health improvements. And more recently, during the transition of a close family member, my mother called me to work through meditations with the family to keep them anchored in their peace. And she added, do I need to wear white for the meditation? This was an amazing transition, and I feel confident that without going to God, my person would not have lived truth in that situation and may have impaired my relationship with my mother. Our mother-daughter relationship continues to grow stronger, impacting on my siblings as well. I say thanks to God for this way of life and to Shechem Shechem, who brought this oracular system to guide us home to our Osir.
And I would just like to add that there are more shrines of the Black Madonna in Europe than there are, shrines to Mary, white, and so on. Mm-hmm. And the reason that they have not gotten rid of these shrines of the Black Madonnas, because those shrines were there before Europe was Europe. That was when Europe was black, populated by black people, and the people dared not get rid of these Black Madonna shrines because there were so many miraculous healing that took place, that have taken place to this day. You see that even in the Vatican, in the private chamber of the Pope, the Madonna is a Black Madonna. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, and so on. So accept that part of the spirit. You see that? It's just not simply, the accept part of our spirit. There's a whole tradition of ancestral queen mothers and ancestral priestesses. You see that? Especially the priestesses of Amen that enable the Napatian, government to take over rulership over Egypt. You see, to wrest Egypt out of the hands of the Greeks and the Syrians and so on. You see that? So the Osset part of the spirit is just not simply a healing energy. You see that? Because it's another part of it gives birth to what we call tsunamis. I don't have to say anymore, right?
Right.
As I say, as in Chinese medicine, there's the yang waters and there are the yin waters.
Well, we had a few tsunamis in my household growing up. I had that kind of mother. She wouldn't wait for dad to get home.
I hear you.
On that note, Shechem, one person on Facebook asked, they wondered about the oracle coming to you through an Osset meditation versus a Tahuti meditation.
Well, very good question. Osset governs trance. You see that? You see, for you to connect deeply with Tahuti, you got to come through Osset. You see that? For the same, and you got to get into the whole, largesse of the Kemetic metaphysical teachings. We find that Tahuti, the avatar of Tahuti is the ibis, which is the bird, right? And you find that this ibis is standing on one foot in a pool of water. You see that? And there's a palette, writing palette, and a pen. The palette is in the left hand and the pen is in the right hand, but Tahuti is looking into the waters. You see that? Standing on one foot. Standing on one foot means that equilibrium. It is a master of equilibrium, meaning that wisdom, brings together all extremes and make all extremes work together. You know, it's easy for extremes and differences to fight, but it takes wisdom to unite them and make them function harmoniously. But Tehuta is looking into the waters. He's an ibis, a water bird, looking into the water. And it goes into the whole, crystal divination and divination by looking into the waters and crystals and things of that nature. People who have that great gift, know what I'm talking about. You see that if you stare into a mirror or a crystal ball, you see that, or the power is not in the crystal ball. It's just simply that energy, that particular, configuration that just excites your psyche and draws you into that part of the spirit. You see that enables you to communicate with the Tehuta part of the spirit within you.
Wonderful.
And I just want to let people know that when they buy the cards, they must get also volume 3 of the Metu Neter, which outlines and lays out, the meanings of the cards and the combination of cards. And once we republish volume 1, they will also be able to get information on the different relationships of oils and gemstones and mantras and so on. You with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We want to welcome you first timers. I'm glad you're here to hear these wonderful stories. Here's another one. One of our members, she said that her child had an accident and they were going to do a very invasive surgical procedure. It was a week prior to the date for the surgery. The surgery was being performed due to an accident. The bone in the fractured leg would not turn to align with the other broken bone. Another doctor had told me not to allow the particular surgery. I did a reading and meditated to the faculty, and the visit before the operation, the bone turned to align properly with the other bone. The doctor said it was a miracle and called the surgery off.
A miracle indeed. As a matter of fact, volume 3, that's what it's called, right? Keep the Miracles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Miracles are events that happen through trans-physical, agencies, because the world does not begin on the physical plane. The physical plane is the effect of the subtler, higher planes. You see that? And Western physics has not caught up with the metaphysical plane of energies. You see that? I mean, physics knows that there are these, metaphysical, these meta particle realities. You see that? And even, there is the understanding that when you get to the highest levels of energy and matter, okay, you can affect these energies with the mind and the will. They've done all kind of experiments, and all you got to do is just simply connect, with the what's the museum in Washington, Smithsonian, where they have acknowledged and documented and verified, extrasensory realities.
True. This is a young man with us, actually grew up in the society, and he used the oracle in his career. He was in a managerial position, and he speaks about an incident where he had a technician that was a great candidate on paper and checked all the boxes in their interview. He was initially excited about the hire, and since I do readings for all of my hires, I did a Metu Neter reading for hiring this person. I received the Nekabet Tema'at, Dark Deceased Tema'at, for adding him to my team, and decided not to make an offer to this person. He said the hiring manager above him was upset, and he received a lot of criticism for not making the hire from people that were higher up in management. The hiring manager went over his head and decided to bring this person onto another team that they were hired for. 2 weeks later, after being hired into the company, the person left the position.
Make a bet him or hello.
It's another testimonial about a person who had a very challenging situation, losing their little brother, and that when they did a reading, their part of the reading that came up was their incarnation objective, and that by working through that reading, they were able to not only find the strength and the peace to be able to endure what happened, but also to be a source of strength to bring the rest of the family through that. And I just wanted to ask you, Shechem, because it seems to me that even thinking to come up with that question is something that a lot of people that have dealt with oracles have not considered. When you say incarnation objective or destiny reading, and we have this tradition in Osar Set and beyond, that when a child is born, we do this reading right after they're born, when we have no idea about what this child's life path will be. And we have found time after time that the oracle is able to predict critical things about this person's life and their path. What led you to even think about that question and of a destiny or an incarnation objective as a key reading?
Well, the mere fact that you know, I have mastered the I Ching, and I'm working on another volume which will top all the volumes I've done before in the I Ching. Because I want to bring the I Ching fully up into the 21st century. You see that? For example, the 51st hexagram, the I Ching calls it shock. Okay? My new title will be stress response. Stress response. You see that? With the full in-depth scientific knowledge of how you can avoid and fix stress and be stress-free. You see that? So that little blurb we get in the Wilhelm and so forth, it's a disservice to this great oracle. You see that? Now, when Sun Ra told me about the I Ching and I went downtown to get my copy of the book, right? I'm reading through the book, and and I collected I got my 3 pennies together, ready to do my first reading, and the question popped into my mind. I asked about, why am I here? What's my purpose on earth? Which is, what is my destiny? So that's the first question that popped into my head. You see that? And when it told me to give up, my music to devote myself to my spiritual upliftment and that of the world, you see that? That solidifies my understanding that a key important reading is your destiny reading. Why you're here, it is above and beyond, and it brings together all the other readings that you do. You see that, especially when it comes up again, or the theme of that reading comes up again. You understand what I'm saying here? You know, but the Metu Neter, our tradition is not the only one. The Ifa, the Yorubas, they do that too. One of the first reading is your destiny reading. You see that? Why are you here? What's the most important, deity, Orisha, that is, guiding your life. You see that? So it's very important, it's the master reading. You see that?
So for people who are still, debating whether we have free will or destiny, or are we destined to have certain experiences, there's a lot of things that happen to people that are very tragic or unprovoked, or, you would say undeserved. How would you answer that question, that it's possible for us to be destined to have, or is it, certain very negative experiences in life?
Well, you see, when people argue about free will versus destiny, they don't understand the words. You see, the will is your intention, and it is you and you manifesting yourself as your intention. That's what the will is. You see that? destiny ties in with the word destination. You follow what I'm saying? Your destiny is where are you going in life? You understand that? And what is supposed to happen on your journey? You know, you get into your car, you want to travel from Philadelphia to New York. You have a destination. You have a, which is going to take you along that highway and so forth. Your intention is to get to New York. Along the way, a whole lot of things can happen. A flat tire or something else or whatever, right? So destiny is about the things that happen to you on your journey through life. You see that? Okay. Your destination can be um, to become a millionaire and and give charity to needy people. You understand that? So that's your intention. That is your will. You understand that? On your journey to making that millions of dollars to help people, you see, there are things that are outside of your calling that will happen. You see that? Now, that destiny reading will point out to you what is the most important thing that will happen to you, in your journey through life. And you see, and the thing that happens in your life, is for you to grow spiritually. The purpose of man's life is to become a divine being. You see that? That's our purpose in life. The purpose for the creation of the world is to bring forth a spiritual woman or spiritual man. You see, let's put it this way here: a spiritual man, womankind, a spiritual womankind, a spiritual mankind. You see that? Meaning that there will come a day when every single man and every single woman that is born will be born with spiritual awareness and skills and abilities because they would have evolved past the animal part of their being. But for that to happen, you see, spiritualized people today have to change the DNA through their meditations and the living of truth and so on. So we came to earth not just to simply enjoy life, but to become divine beings. But to become divine beings, you have to purify the animal soul out of you, the animal psyche out of you, and that is the drama, you see, of life. You understand that? That's where the drama of life comes in, the purification of your soul, the things that are appointed for you to go through to cleanse yourself of the lower part of your being. You see that? So that does not affect your will, your intention. It affects your destiny and the things that happens along your journey to your destination. So the word is not fully understood. The reality is not fully understood, and that's the source of confusion in people about free will and destiny and so on.
So this knowledge is encoded within our spirit and is able to be
Absolutely.
read by the oracle,
It's
regardless.
encoded in our spirit and in our psyche. Those two parts of being. You see that? Okay. In other words, my will, my intention was to become a concert pianist. I was, I got a scholarship to study piano at Miners College of Music. I was doing very well. I was an accomplished pianist. You don't, you don't get to a school at Miners College of Music or Juilliard unless you're already an accomplished musician. You go to get polished off. It's not a school for beginners. You see that? So my will was to become a pianist, a composer, and an orchestra conductor. That was my intention. You see that? God said, give it up and devote yourself to uplifting yourself spiritually and uplifting others. Now, I had the free will to say, no, I'm not doing that. I will continue to play Beethoven and Chopin and things of that nature. I ain't going to do that, especially if I don't know how I'm going to make a living now. You understand that? I was free. That nothing stopped me from doing that. when I went to the oracle to learn about my destiny, nothing said that you're going to be compelled to give it up. You see that? Nothing was compelling me to give it up. That was a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I understood at some point, oh, this is the word of God. I chose, meaning I exercised my free will. What the oracle did was to enlighten me about why am I really here. Now, you need to ask God why you're here, because you have no other way of knowing. If you don't ask God why you're here on this earth, you're deluded. All of a sudden, you think that you know why you're here. You see?
Mm.
No, ask God.
And is one's destiny, does it always involve a major sacrifice? I know for your person, and we know the principle of sacrificing in order to release spiritual power, everything in your life had prepared you for that path from the time you were under 3 or 4 years old. To walk away from that must have been appeared to be a great sacrifice.
Well, it is a sacrifice on one side, on the before side, when you haven't reaped the benefits and the blessings of making the change. It is a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's actually a delusion of a sacrifice because you think you're giving up something so great. And as great as what you're giving up, once you go through it peacefully and enjoy the peace, and you begin to reap the benefits, then you find that it was not a sacrifice because you gave up $1 to get $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Giving up the lesser for the greater cannot be called a sacrifice, right?
Right.
It's when you don't know, when you haven't yet gotten the blessing, they say, oh, I'm giving up so much. I'm giving up Beethoven and Chopin and the applauses and all of that and Carnegie Hall and, and especially go to the Lincoln Center and your eyes tears over. No, you're getting a whole lot more from that than that.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? So you can't call it a sacrifice. Sacrifice would have been giving up a life of sharing spiritually, to become a musician.
Mm.
That's my path. I'm not telling other musicians to give up. Let God tell them.
Mm-hmm. Someone on YouTube asked, Shechem, what is the difference between the spirit and the psyche? And why doesn't the Metu Neter oracle also address life's questions from that perspective also? I guess they mean from the psyche.
Well, the psyche is a different part of your spirit. You see, the psyche is all the animal part of you, the animal inheritance. You see that? It is your past. The spirit is the present and the future. It's not a part of your being. You see that? The spirit has to do the faculty 0 through 9, and the psyche is the 10th faculty of the spirit, the lowest faculty of the spirit. You see that? And that's the psyche, and they're two different parts altogether. The psyche is connected to your breathing, your cardiovascular system, and all your physiological functions that you have inherited, along with your social and psychobiological propensities, and so on. So that's a whole different symbol set. You see that? Than the spiritual part of you. Okay? So they're not together, but the spirit controls the psyche. So once you spiritualize yourself with the Metu Neter readings, it will help you to purify and uplift the psyche. You see that? But if I just work on the psyche and not on the spirit, the psyche will not, develop my spirit. If I work on the spirit and not the psyche, the spirit will develop and cleanse and purify the psyche. I hope that is clear. You said that the higher will always uplift and cleanse the lower, but working the lower will not cleanse and uplift the higher.
True.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we are well into the hour. I want to thank you, Shechem, for spending this time with us to talk about the Metu Neter oracle. And I just want to show everyone before we ask if you have any closing remarks, that if they need to get a copy of the book, the Metu Neter, Volume 3. Here we go. They can go to the website that we showed, which is towinetwork.kartra.com/page/Metu Neter. We'll put that in the chat before we leave, and you can get your Metu Neter Volume 3 and your deck of Metu Neter Oracle cards from that site. Also, if you are interested in finding out how you can follow up to learn more about the classes, about the resources that we have to help you with your studies, you can go to our link tree here, and that's the address. I'll put that on the screen again in a moment. But as you page through here, you'll find the various locations of a Sarset Society in the United States. There's also a link here for the UK, for Canada, for Trinidad, for Ghana, South Africa, as to how you can connect with us on Facebook or on a website and learn about our classes. All right. So, Shechem, any closing remarks that you'd like to make before we sign off?
Well, I would like to sign off by giving thanks to everybody that came along, for this, presentation this evening. And, Thursday night, everybody's busy, 4 days of working and coming in and tired and giving up dinner for a late dinner, whatever, So I really appreciate what you're doing. And I know that all of you are here because you're committed to spiritual teachings and sharing it with others. So let's walk together on this journey through life. Peace and blessings to all of you.
Thank you so much, Shechem. A Necharak to you. That means in the Kemetic language, it's an energy, it's a mantra to share power, peace, blessings, vitality, vigor, energy, so you can continue this great work. Thank you so much for being with us in the Necharak.
Thank you very much.
Peace and blessings, everyone. And thank you so much, Shechem Medut, Nedabes Amare, and Odawat Meter Erit, and all those who sent in their testimonials.
Divine Queen, you wear the garments of heaven, robed in the essence of the realm of peace. Upon your face, I see my future. Within your eyes, I see a myriad of stars. Today as yesterday, tomorrow as today. Your gentle voice is as the breeze lightly lifting a feather. I draw strength from your waters, refreshing me in this barren, desolate land. You are my oasis, my nourishment when I am weak. You are true love defined. Your selfless acts give me the courage to face and meet all challenges. The model of womanhood, the image of a goddess, Life begins with you. Crafted by the hands of the Creator, you are the mate for my soul. Our union is God's plan. Harmony, balance, equilibrium, for what is day without night? And just as the light melts into darkness to complete the cycle, you complete me. My queen, you are the reflection of God's perfection.
The sun dances in the sky, giving rays of light, warming the unneeded darkness in the world. The city is echoing the theme of the day as I make it through my day, full of the insincerity that this city can infest in our life force. My mind centers on the quiet moments with you. That's what seems to get me through. Those soft times when your eyes serve as the refreshment of my depleted spirit. So quiet, yet I can hear it. The moments when I close my eyes, watching our spirit intertwine, washing away all my animal remains of a dark thought. As the cool wind whispers, envelops me with the tender feathers of my act, giving me the foundation to stand again. Love, surrender, and devotion is your magic potion that rockets me to the realm of the third eye, giving me sight beyond sight. Suddenly, you appear. I can hear the sweet rhapsodies of your melodic words of power, the epitome of a goddess. You rain the divine milk all over my starving soul, which rises the God out of me. You point and say, there is Osir, looking deep into the essence of my soul, the look of love, leaving with no other option but to be divine. Sometimes when the animal seems to have the upper hand, you always understand. No words of fire do you bring. You take this occasion to give me gentle persuasion that brings everything back into order by lighting my fire with your water. But what you really taught my person is, when you seem to fall to, oh my queen, I'll reach down and offset you. Metu Neter, I will always be there. I dance with you, I trance with you, and with my divinity I enhance with you. Quiet moments with Offset. Quiet moments with you, Offset. I will always be there.